Hello? Is this thing on? Let's see. It's been a while since I've done this. The lights are good to go. Alright. What's going on, guys? It is your boy Casual with Casual Tech, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new MacBook Pro M1X and why I regret buying it. Alright, so I know you guys are wondering how I regret buying it, and I haven't even received it in the mail yet. I have a few reasons why. Just to have a little bit of clarification, I don't regret buying it, but I do have a few concerns. And I said regret in the thumbnail because you guys probably wouldn't click on this video if I didn't trick you a little bit. So I got you. Stay. Don't go nowhere. Just talk about it. Alright guys, so a few of the concerns that I have with the new M1 Max, I'm sure a lot of people are having the same concerns. It's just two things, honestly, so this is going to be a short video. But basically I want to talk about the battery life. The battery life is something very important to me. Also, the thermal temperatures. Now, when it comes between the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, I'm a little bit worried that the M1 Max, since it's running a bigger chip, regardless of if it's inside of the 16-inch MacBook or not, I feel like that chip is going to be a lot to handle. And I understand we have 10 CPU cores and I have 32 GPU cores in mine, so I know it'll have plenty of space to alleviate some of that within the laptop, but I am kind of worried about it still. I mean, that's a huge chip, that's a massive chip, and it's also going to be running a lot of power through my computer. Personally, I don't think I'm going to be doing a lot. I really only purchased this machine so that I can do video editing, and I'm also a real estate photographer, so I want to make sure that when I'm editing HDR photos for real estate photography that it doesn't slow down on me. Now, I really doubt that's going to happen when it has 10 CPU cores and 32 GPU cores. I got 32 gigabytes of unified memory on mine and also 1 terabyte of SSD storage. So I got a pretty beast machine. Hopefully it does everything I need it to do. I'm pretty sure it will, because I mean, even looking back at the M1, the regular M1 on the 13-inch and the MacBook Air, the M1 is extremely good, and a lot of people are switching from their dedicated iMacs to go to that smaller form factor, and it's giving them a lot more power as well. So that's really surprising. I can't wait to actually see some people do some benchmarks. I can't wait till people get their hands on it so that they can actually physically take a look at it. So I think that'll really help. That's really what I'm waiting for. I know a lot of the YouTubers that I'm keeping an eye on, like Max Tech and a lot of other YouTubers, they're not going to receive the new MacBooks until Tuesday. Today is currently Saturday, so I have about 2 more days to wait, you know, Sunday and Monday. But when they do receive it, hopefully they can get out here with these videos as soon as possible. I know a lot of reviewers are probably going to take a look at the 14-inch form factor first, because that seems like the one that a lot of people are going to go for. But me personally, I went with the full throttle M1 Max, 10 cores CPU, 32 core GPU, 32 gigs of unified memory, also 1 terabyte of SSD. So I'm really hoping that that machine is powerful enough for what I need it for. Hopefully the small form factor with the 16-inch, I mean, it's not exactly small, but it is still a laptop. So hopefully, you know, it's enough room for that thermal energy to work within that, within the MacBook. So that's the plan. And other than that, I mean, we can talk about the battery life. So if you carefully study the performance of the M1 Max, you can see that the power consumption is about 60 watts, depending on what you're doing. And with the M1 Pro, it's only going to be 30 watts. So my concern is with the M1 Pro on full power, if this thing, if say you're editing a lot, and you're putting a full load on this thing, then it's gonna run the battery down within an hour within the 14-inch form factor, and within the 16-inch form factor, it's gonna run the battery down in about an hour and a half. And again, that's at full load. Now, in principle, that's not really a bad thing. I mean, when you're looking at these machines, as fast as they're moving, as fast as they're working, if you can get your work done in half the time, then regardless if the battery life goes down within an hour, hopefully you can get everything that you need to get done. I mean, it'll render a lot quicker and you won't run into any hiccups or slowdowns. So in principle, that makes sense. Even when it comes to the battery performance within these MacBooks, I used to own an HP Omen 15 with I think it was 16 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, i7, and it had a 3080 in it, and that was an amazing machine. I'm a Windows guy, so this is going to be my first MacBook, but that computer ran the battery down within 30 minutes if I'm literally using it at full load on battery. So it wasn't the best battery life, and that's why I'm considering moving over to the MacBook, because I saw with the M1 it was having amazing battery life, and a lot of people were getting through 4K edits and even, you know, editing photos within 2 hours of losing battery. So that's what I'm hoping this machine does with the M1 Max. Again, it's going to be a way bigger chip. It's going to be running way hotter, I'm assuming, depending on if the thermals are exactly what Apple says. So I guess we'll have to find out. Alright guys, so I want to read you a comment that I ran into on one of Max's videos on Max Tech. He was reviewing the M1 machines and basically talking about all the things that Apple didn't tell us, the power consumption, everything. So I ran into this comment that made a lot of sense to me, and then it had me worry, and that's the purpose of making this video. Then I was worried about purchasing the M1 Max and thinking about, should I have gotten the M1 Pro? Now, currently, my issue is I can't get the M1 Pro to the configuration that I wanted to. I wanted to get the M1 Pro, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. That's what I wanted. Couldn't get it because I'm purchasing it through Best Buy, and I have money through Best Buy because I have a card that I'm using through them, and I can't use that at the Apple Store. So I'm kind of forced to purchase this machine through Best Buy, and they only had a few different configurations that I could choose from. The only configuration with 32 gigabytes of RAM was obviously Max chip, so that's the one I went with. 32 cores of GPU, 10 core CPU, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. That's the exact one that I got. And I'm just nervous that, you know, the Max might be too powerful. Like, if I'm not using it to its full potential, will the battery still deplete a lot quicker than I needed to, you know, because it's still assuming, you know, it's using all that power. Who knows? But again, I have this comment here that I found, and I basically want to read it to you. It'll kind of put things into perspective of how I'm kind of feeling right now. So let's get into it. So there's going to be significant impact on the battery when you go to the Max configuration. If you carefully study the performance graphs, you can see that the Max had close to 60 watts max consumption versus about 30 watts for the Pro. This means that the Max under full load can run the battery down in 1 hour on the 14-inch and about an hour and a half on the 16-inch. Now in principle, this is not bad, assuming it gets the work done in half the time. But even more important, looking at the other end of the performance graphs, assuming that the endpoint is idle power, you will see that the Max also has about 50% greater idle power, about 12 watts versus 8 watts for the GPU plots, while the CPU plots both show 5 watts. I can't figure out how this is tested. Do the GPU curves include the CPU? So that's kind of my question as well. Assuming that the CPU will take on some of that power with 32 cores of GPU, I don't think with the Max you're really going to need that. I don't know if I'm thinking about this right. Again, in the comments you guys tell me. I would definitely love some feedback on this video, but let's continue. The video playback numbers tested with the 14-inch using the most bend part of the Pro, while the 16-inch is using the regular Pro. No numbers are shown for the Max. For the 16-inch Pro, we may get a hint at the idle power within up to 21 hours of video playback. Here I would guess only the efficiency cores are working, which I assume that as well. Only one graphic core active and the decoding running in the dedicated hardware. This then would imply a 5 watt total power consumption, which matches the 100 watt divided by 21 hours. However, this is inconsistent with the 8 watt GPU minimum based on the performance power curves. Hopefully you guys are understanding me a little bit on this. I know it's a lot to take in, but if you guys just take a second to listen, maybe you can help me out on this. We can help each other out. The fact that this test does not include the Max version implies that it has significantly higher idle power consumption. Looking at Apple's own performance graph, it goes from 12 watts to about 60 watts. So assuming the CPU and GPU in the Max are doing close to nothing while playing video, this 12 watt idle power for the Max will give 8 hours video watching using the Apple TV app maybe, or maybe Netflix, and that is most likely optimized for your computer, you know, because those apps they have a wide range of viewers. Of course they're going to be on a bunch of platforms, so they're going to be optimized. So assuming it's optimized, you'll only get that 8 hours, but if it's not optimized, maybe worse. Obviously, the Max with such a huge chip and record-breaking transistor count must still be considered extremely impressive. But it also makes a compelling case that you only want the 16-inch screen for the screen size. You should stick with the Pro chip, which will give you much better battery life than the Max, since the Pro can throttle down to a lower idle current. Now, again, that's the purpose of me making this video. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. Will the Max use all of that power even when I'm not using it? Will the Max think that I'm editing 8K footage when I'm just editing 4K? Now, of course, if I'm just editing 4K, the computer will be able to sense that, But those are just some concerns that I have. Nobody knows until we actually have these machines in hand to test them. Alright, so I'm going to finish off this comment, and then after this, we're going to wrap it up. And you guys, please go down in the comments and tell me exactly what you think. At the high performance end, the Pro uses 30 watts and the Max 60 watts. This means that if you're going pedal to the metal with the 14-inch Pro, battery will be depleted in about 70 to 30 hours. So yeah, guys, those are my concerns, and that comment really brought things into perspective for me, you know. I wanted to go for the M1 Max again so that it would be able to handle everything that I throw at it, 4K footage. I'm going to be editing a lot of HDR real estate photos, and I'm going to be stacking them as well, shooting them at different exposures. But we're really not going to know how these machines work until we get our hands on them, until we get a first look at some Geekbench scores, and we actually have people test them out, see how much RAM we actually need. Because again, another concern I have is a lot of people are saying that the 16 gigabytes of unified memory is going to be perfect for a lot of people, because the SSD, if you have a good SSD storage, it's going to offload a lot of that memory that you're using on the unified memory off into the SSD. Now, again, we don't know. All of this is just assumptions. All of this is just, you know, based off of the information Apple has given us so far. So again, just like you guys, I'm waiting for, you know, some videos showing us exactly how this thing works. I'm truly hoping that the M1 Max will be perfect for me and that it won't use all the power even when I'm not using it. So that is the end of it, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I make a few more videos about this before I actually receive mine. I'm going to keep listening to, you know, the news and watching videos to see everything about these machines and to learn more about it so that I can also, you know, give that information to a lot of you guys that maybe don't have the time to do so. So if you guys click down at the bottom, leave a like and a comment, and also please subscribe. I want to make more tech videos. This channel is going to be centered around photography, videography, tech, everything. I'm debating on if I want to make a second channel. I think that we can fit everything in this channel. I think that'll be a great group of things that we can talk about. So if you guys want to watch more of me, if you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you. Again, the like and comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Casual Tech, we out.
You're not trying too hard.
Baby, these diamonds and